So let's continue on with the Amazon acquired figures. I think I have finally sourced everything from all the recent waves. I might have forgotten about something, but I don't think so. So now I'm just waiting on delivery for all the remaining stuff, and then I should be able to get around to all those reviews you guys have been dying to see. And this time, I'm actually going to bother asking you guys to subscribe if you aren't already and are interested. Since the start of 2022, my subscriber growth has been down by over a third. It used to hover around 350 subscribers a month. Since basically December, it's been almost exactly 200. For reference, I'm only a bit over halfway to 7,000 subscribers, but this video is exactly as many days from my 6,000 subscriber special as my 6K sub special is to my 5K sub special. I blame myself for reducing output by one video per week over the start of the year. I make 1/3 fewer videos and I get 1/3 fewer subscribers. Go figure. But that didn't ever recover when I started doing 3 videos a week again. So please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video by the end. And let's not waste any more of your time. It's 86 Perceptor. This thing is awesome! Review over. Okay, seriously though, this thing rules. Hasbro is really on a hot streak now, releasing great figure after great figure. Even the ones that looked like they were going to be crap at least turned out to be decent. And permit me to go off on a brief but also yet another tangent immediately, because I got a lot of comments about Legacy from people who are upset about her G1ification. I agree that that's fully what they did with the bulkhead, but that's not what they did with RC at all. RC was not altered to be more G1. What happened is that Hasbro pulled an early MMC. They genericized the hell out of her sculpt so the figure could be retooled into a dozen other different characters with no effort. We already know that they are doing a Road Rocket, and they're absolutely going to do a Flame War. They're probably going to do a Cybertron Ransack, and probably others as well. And all they're going to have to do to make them into these new characters is swap the head and change the color, and that'll be another $25 please. That's why she looks the way she does. She is not more G1, she just had her sculpt bastardized so the repaints will be the cheapest thing possible to produce. Anyways, let's actually talk about Perceptor without distraction this time. This thing looks fantastic. Like, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to run this review for, because when I say something is perfect, I struggle for things to say, because that one word encapsulates everything perfectly. Seriously, if it weren't for the hole in his back, which, I mean, come on, Hasbro, that did not need to be there. You could have filled that in easily with a flap. This thing would have been literally perfect. And it achieves its perfection with barely any paint. See, this is why I always say I'm not much one for paint. For the most part, it's unnecessary. This thing looks amazing, and do you know what's painted on it? The knobs on his wrists and the one on top of his microscope, the tiny white ring on the front of the microscope, the very tops of his shoulders, the insides of his wrists, the Autobot symbol on his chest, the white borders of his chest window, his face, and this tiny patch of red on his dick. It looks like maybe the entire center of his crotch section might have been cast in red, and then they painted everything but that part, which would be the biggest waste of paint of all time. Seriously, if that's what they did, what the hell are they smoking? Because I wish they didn't even bother leaving that bit red. I don't care. I don't know why anyone would stress if Perceptor has a tiny bit of red on his Johnson or not. But even if that part is red, painted black, it could have been even more easily just cast in black, and it still proves my point. That's it. That is all the paint he gets, and it still looks fantastic. The necessity of paint is a complete lie. The material colors, if done well, can do like 99% of the work. This thing doesn't even need the paint it has. Everything here could have just been a separate plastic piece. Even the wrists could have been that way if they just incorporated a mushroom peg, and that would have given the fists an extra joint. The build on mine here is phenomenal, by the way. It feels so good. The plastic just rocks my socks, feeling great in the fist. It's not quite the hand candy that the Siege Optimus Prime is, but it's still delightful nonetheless. Every joint is super tight, feeling stiff and creamy. Get your minds out of the gutter. And for the people who are always afraid of clear plastic, I don't think you really need to be concerned about his chest window. Yes, that's on a tough rotation, but this seems like a pretty robust chunk of plastic. Just to be sure of its durability, I watched an entire episode of a TV show, opening and closing this over and over the whole time, and mine seems none the worse for the wear. So it appears to be a non-issue, but feel free to run around screaming about the end times in the comments anyways. The legs are a little annoying with the sideways hinges. Not only is the cut for them a bit ugly and the most apparent thing in the whole world, but the joints on them are the loosest ones on the whole figure. That's not to say that they're terrible or anything, they hold themselves up pretty good, but if you bump them, it can get frustrating. He's also got some tank treads on the backs of his calves. I thought these would do something during transformation. They do not. It's just sculpting for the tank thing mode thing. Is there a single person on the planet who gives a crap about the tank mode that doesn't work at Hasbro? Question of the video. Do you care? No, you don't. His shoulder cannon has a plethora of storage options so it can stop cutting off like half of his vision when he wants it out of the way. He's even got a fashionable purse mode for it. If you all remember my initial video looking at this way back when it was first announced, you might recall that the one thing I really have an issue with is the head sculpt. Well, I'm happy to say that in hand, while yes, it's still a little off, this actually looks way better. Unlike much of the 86 line with its freakish head sculpts, this manages to capture the actual character to an extent. It feels a little wide, but it still does manage to look like Perceptor, though the dour expression seems a little odd for the character, and you might be noticing the flashing I have in the corner of my figure's eye. Yeah, that's frustrating, but believe me when I say it was way worse when I first got the figure in hand. I clipped off as much as I could, but when I first got him, he looked like he'd been stung by a bee directly in the eye. Anyways, I'm happy to say that this head sculpt looks better than I feared it would, and the look and build of this figure really impresses. The last time I had my expectations this detonated by a Chug figure was probably 86 Wreck-Gar. Yes, Skids and RC were way better than I expected, but I expected crap. This I anticipated being good, and it still exceeded my expectations. Now this guy doesn't come with a lot in terms of accessories, but they are worth mentioning. He has his gun, it looks crappy. At a glance you go, yeah, that's the gun he had. And then you stare at it a little longer and you just realize, this is such a toy. And yeah, all the guns the Transformers come with are toys, but this one just gives off a vibe that's hard to put into words. He also comes with his backdrop, and this is one of the only times I'm actually enthusiastic about one of these. It's Autobot City on Earth, and it just looks really cool. This is actually a fun and useful diorama, and it makes me wish that more of these had anything interesting going on. So this stuff isn't the best, but unlike, say, the RC, whose accessories are almost a negative quality, these do increase the enjoyment of this figure a bit. The parade of positive features does not stop with the posability. Pretty average head, which you can sheet for maximum up. It's so up it's down. Shoulders pull a 90, and you can sheet those for a little more than normal too. Slightly more than 90 elbows. Welcome to the vocabulary, narcissarists. Excessively unimpeded legs, though going out to the side is a little annoying. Mafia thighs. You can use these to give him some real power stances. Knees with a pretty cool joint that allows for some extreme bend, a toe tilt down, and a serious pivot. Not quite a barn burner on posability, as he pretty much only has typical joints, if you don't count the thighs, which are of very limited use, but what he does have is almost universally better than average by a little to often a lot. Transformation here is also really simple, but really fun. I don't think any of you would have trouble figuring this out without using directions. It's real simple. It could stand to hold together a little better, but it's also just kind of addicting. And the microscope mode is a microscope. I don't know what more to say about that. It feels perhaps a bit more like an industrial microscope than it does, say, a classroom one, but that's not any kind of flaw. It just feels like he'd be the one that you find in a school based on his personality. Outside of that, it looks perfect. Just like the robot mode, it's exactly what it should be, looking like it jumped right off the screen. I'm actually shocked at how apparently easy it was to design a perfect Perceptor. It makes you wonder how it wasn't done before. I cannot tell if the lens is actually supposed to work or something. Light is clearly able to pass through it, but when I try to look down it, it's just a blur. So yeah, this is an awesome rendition of Perceptor's alt mode, but he has one last trick up his sleeve. One last stupid trick. If you are already in the microscope mode, this one is a brain-dead simple transformation. You basically just flip the legs backwards and bend the figure over. It's got these little tabs that slot into his shins, and why are these here? Did this really need to tab together into this nothing mode? It couldn't just sit there like this and be the exact same thing it already is? Instead, they gave him these tumors on his arms so it could peg together in this one mode that absolutely had no need to peg together. I'd chop these off if I cared enough. Anyways, look at it. It's a thing. It's a tank. It's a bullshit. Little kids might get a kick out of this, but why would they be buying Studio Series 86? Otherwise, I don't know. So ignoring this complete trash right here, this is fantastic. Like I said before, it's a borderline perfect alt mode, and it's astonishing just how little it takes to get there. Seriously, that transformation is fun, but it is very simple, and this figure is beyond excellent. This is yet another 86 figure that is absolutely slamming it out of the park. There is not a single aspect of this figure that is even average. The robot mode looks basically perfect, emulating the character to a T, despite the dearth of paint. The materials feel great in hand, it's built like a rock, posability is above average in almost every way. The only improvements that could really be made are a wrist swivel and specialty joints like butterflies and an ab crunch. Which, on that last bit, there's nothing preventing them from engineering one of those into the figure. They just didn't, which, expected, but hopefully one day we will get to the point where ab crunches are normal. Okay, so accessories are average, it's a gun and a chunk of cardboard. Yeah, that's not anything special. But then you got the transformation, simple but fun. And as I already said several times, a perfect alt mode. I rarely give out this title because very few figures actually deserve it, and then about half the time when I intend to, I just forget to make my final thoughts clear anyways. But this right here, 86 Perceptor, is a micro masterpiece. You are all welcome for me not doing any jokes about how overly verbose he was in the movie. I spared you all, so thank me. And that's not half what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know, you know, what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So, if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please, share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.